The Montreal Canadiens just sent a clear message with this, as the Habs are making multiple moves, including the signing of Alexandre Texier, but a send down to Laval, plus a call-up from Kent Hughes really signifies what the Habs are looking to do moving forward, and it's not looking good for one prospect in particular. We have to break down the send-downs, the call-ups, the signings, all of the latest stuff, and more moves are very likely coming, as we're going to revisit some very interesting reports coming out of different NHL insiders last week. But we also got a big prospect update, as multiple Habs prospects not in Laval have been absolutely dominating. That plus much more all coming up. Jesse, right now today, there's a lot going on with the Montreal Canadiens. We don't play until Wednesday. It's a weird week. American Thanksgiving Wednesday, then like a Friday afternoon game, and then a Saturday afternoon game. But right now the Habs are riding high after that win, after a new signing, after some call-ups, some send-downs. It's a bit of chaos right now trying to figure things out, but that's right where I want to be, because I know, look, we've already made some moves, and I can't help but get that feeling that some big things are coming here in the next week or two.
It's the calm before the storm in Habsland right now. Couple days break before going back to back to back. We got the Olympics to thank here. We're going to have a weekend full of hockey. Going to be awesome here shaping up. But Josh, like as you mentioned, an important period of flux with the Montreal Canadiens right now, where there's some movement. We've known there's been some injuries, but there's some guys again getting sent down, but there's again some guys getting called up because they're just playing so well right now. Some additions, as we're seeing with Texier recently. So obviously lots of exciting stuff going on. The Habs want to get back to their winning ways. Like we saw earlier in the season, we believe they can. We know Kent Hughes not taking a day off and getting there either.
Absolutely never, and I don't think he knows what a day off is. The man's walking with his arm in a sling, and he's not that would really stop him. No typing, I imagine, is not very easy. He's using those voice texts again. Are you awake? Look, he's already practiced. It's like he knew.
You awake?
Yeah. Are you awake? I am Kent. You can wake. I'm not going to finish that sentence. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We got a lot of wonderful people in the chat. Getting Dude and Oz, Rays, Derek. Is Adam Engstrom a trade piece being showcased? Ooh, we might get into that in a little bit. That's an interesting take I haven't seen. Daniel with the Slafzilla emojis. Good evening from the Rock. Good evening from the Rock. Right back at you. Jim here in Mount Pearl. I think Engstrom has huge potential. He'll be top 4. Oh, there's a lot of very interesting takes here, Jesse. But no, we're going to very quickly start. Before we get to Engstrom, want to take a look at the upcoming schedule with you guys just briefly, because like you said, Jesse, it's basically a back-to-back-to-back. It's a night game on Wednesday, then afternoon on Friday and Saturday. There's almost no turnaround time. You're flying from Utah to Vegas to Colorado, and want to get the fans' opinion here of this week. We got 3 games. I'm just going to put up a poll. Send your votes as well. How many wins this week? And we're going to put 0, 1, 2, or 3. And look, ultimately, Jesse, we're riding high after a win. This is, you could argue, the toughest stretch of the season so far in terms of density of games and quality of opponents. So right now, Montreal has a lot to prove, and I think these lineup moves that we've made also send a message that, we're not messing around. We're taking who we think is going to give us the best chance to win on this road trip, and we're going to see what the guys got in them. I mean, is that what you're feeling too, with Marty and Kent and this message being sent to the Habs?
Yeah, look for Dobeš to get a lot of starts. Look for the game against Colorado to go to overtime. We know Montreal likes to be in those close games. Colorado's been going there a lot this year as well. But Josh, even though this is a tough stretch of hockey here, I think, historically the Habs of the last couple of years play up to their competition. Yeah. And again, with a younger team, again, it's going to be a good way where they got some good habits, a little bit of a bag skate recently. They're not going to want that again. They kind of got in some good habits, playing in some good games, against some good teams, rather. They know they're going to need to bring their A game to really make that happen here. So again, really excited to see what's happened so far during this year, right? I think the Habs generally, have been able to play with teams playing well in the standings as well. So obviously going to be a tough stretch, here, but we got some good additions and looking to continue, some good habits that we established in the last game.
Absolutely. And look, our team, we have some great scorers too. We currently have 8 different players on pace for over 40 points. Everyone above Slaf. Slaf is just below 40 because he's under a half point per game. But, if you include Newhook, of course, there it is 8. But right now, the defensemen are getting a lot of work done. So we're going to quickly move on now in a second. But I want to stop the poll, see what you guys said, because I love how optimistic the fans are, because we are too. I think the Habs really have a good chance to win a few games here. 24 people got the vote in. the prevailing opinion here is we win 2 out of these games. Most people here, 88% of all the votes, said either 1 or 2 wins this week. And look, I think that's fair. I think if you can come out of this week with 3 points, a 500 points percentage, you're looking good because, again, the standings are close. Like, right now in this, in the Atlantic Division as well, but in this right here, the wild card picture that I'm showing you, the Bruins are there, 24 games played, way more than anyone below them here, and they're just 1 point ahead of Philly, Pittsburgh, Montreal, and Columbus. You can see this is so tightly packed. The whole Eastern Conference can flip on its head so fast. And, you know, again, there's a lot of moves, I think, that implicate how Montreal is going to play this week. And before we get into, again, the kind of message, I think, with Florian and the guy that we sent down, let's get into some of the new guys, Jesse, because I know we're anxious to talk about this, fans as well. Look, we're talking about Alex Texier. Je n'ai pas hésité. He didn't hesitate. He knew he wanted to play in Montreal. He actually got better offers elsewhere to play. I think it was Utah, and he said, no, absolutely not. I'm going to Montreal. And you can see it's the first day at the office for Texier and Adam Engstrom. Texier wearing the 85, Engstrom coming up here. Like, this is really exciting too, Jesse. Like, Engstrom was a bit of a surprise, and we already see people here in the chat saying, is he getting maybe shown to be a trade piece in the future? And I was thinking, like, why is it him and not Del Gaizo this time, right? Last time it was Del Gaizo when we had to go on road trips. So I'm actually really excited to see how both these guys get used. Marty himself was saying, look, I don't even really know how we're going to use him yet, but I think both of these guys could make a very interesting impact on this team. And again, with a back-to-back coming up, it's a perfect opportunity to test out some different lineups.
Yeah, and I think the experience that he's going to bring to this team in that bottom 6 is going to be really important, but also Laval's definitely going to benefit getting back one of their better goal scorers in Joshua Waugh back there. And again, it's too bad that Joshua Waugh didn't work, that we couldn't kind of figure this out with the depth from within, but this addition just makes sense, right, Josh? Like, we're one of the youngest team in the NHL. We look to bring in a young guy to maybe fix it. That wasn't quite doing it. What's the answer? Of course, bringing in some experience in that bottom 6 here. So obviously amazing to see too that he's choosing Montreal over other teams. And obviously when we look for teams that become perennial contenders, it's a little bit of that favoritism that they get from players that helps them get there. It obviously goes without saying of how it can make your team better when other players want to join your team. And again, this might be an example of what's to come here with the future, because again, very exciting. We had a little bit of a losing streak of late, but make no mistake about it, like, players around the NHL have seen how good this Montreal Canadiens team will be, without a doubt whatsoever. And I feel like Texier here is just an example of some players that are going to be coming to Montreal in the very near future, just because they see that this is a team that they can definitely win with.
100%. This is a trend. This is not a one-off anymore. Like, we have seen this countless times already. The discounts that, like, Hudson took, that's the big one. And then a guy like Noah Dobson taking a discount, saying, I want to play in Montreal. And that's a big reason we got him for the price that we did. Now, Alex Texier, like, he just knew it. Again, he did say in his interview, like, yeah, speaking French, like, you speak my language, like, that makes it easier. But again, he could have got money elsewhere. And to him, playing in Montreal with more taxes, with more pressure, it's just where he wanted to be. And this is something that is showing and so exciting, because you know the players buy into that, and clearly players around the NHL buy into that. And so right now with these two guys, like, and you know how much this means for Adam Engstrom as well, and how much it probably meant to Joshua Waugh. But anyway, again, I think we'll dive into him versus Florian in a bit, but I want to hear from the fans, like, who draws into the lineup first, because we want to get you guys active in polls today. Is it going to be Alex Texier, or is it going to be Adam Engstrom? And, you know, I just thought of this question myself, and I'm thinking it probably is going to be Texier, and for the simple reason that I think it's easier to pull out of the lineup a Jared Davidson, who is a little bit banged up per some reports, or even a Florian Xhekaj if maybe he just looks like maybe a little rusty in one of these games. It's an easier, smoother replacement to put in Texier, but Engstrom could slide on the decor for Struble or Xhekaj. I just think that those guys have maybe shown a bit more at the NHL level. I think it's going to be interesting either way, Jesse. I think there's a real world where we see both of these guys appear this week in hockey, which actually really has me excited.
Yeah, definitely. Really looking forward to see Engstrom as well. And the reason why I think that there's a chance that we're seeing him versus call-ups in the past, like Mark Del Gaizo, is we need to remember with Adam Engstrom, we're looking to develop this guy. Like, again, this is a very solid prospect in our development pool. And when we're bringing up, we're going to be looking to get him some ice time. Otherwise, we're letting him play in Laval. So the fact that he's getting called up, Josh, I think is a very strong indication that he's going to get some run over the course of these next 3 games here. And it's really well-deserved, right? Like, this is coming off a 5-point game, having 14 points in his last 18 games in the AHL, while like playing so well defensively at the same time, showcasing that amazing skating, which is obviously just like so important for those quick breakouts, which has been the source of the Montreal Canadiens' success so early on in the year here. So the question is, and I want to hear this in chat, Josh, and like maybe we need to get a poll up for this, is who is going to go out when Adam Engstrom inevitably draws into the lineup? Is it going to be Jayden Struble, or is it going to get Arber Xhekaj? And some people might say with the addition, I don't want to skew it here, but what does come to mind, Josh, with the addition of Florian Xhekaj, you might think that, okay, we're getting some physicality in there. Does that open some things up for Struble? That being said, we've seen a couple positive things from Xhekaj of late here, and maybe you get the most out of Florian by having them there together and maybe just making him feel more comfortable while he's been on the ice. And Florian can be a difference maker. I don't know. Maybe I prefer to have those Xhekaj brothers on the ice here together, especially when we're calling up Florian. So I don't know. Maybe that's my take in all of this here. Josh, who are you having? Who do you think is going to be called out when Engstrom finally gets his shot, which we're just so excited to finally see?
Man, it's tough. Like, I could go with the cop-out answer saying, oh, it depends on the opponent. And, I think it does. But, like, if I'm being objective, like, I agree with you. I think having both Xhekaj guys are out there is a great thing. I just think that, oh, boy, this is actually so difficult. I just think that having Engstrom in the lineup over Xhekaj makes sense in more cases. I think Xhekaj is still very valuable and should get moments, but if we're talking Engstrom's NHL debut, I think he plays maybe a little more like a Struble than like a Xhekaj, but at the same time, I don't know. I think it's probably Arber coming out of the lineup. But it's really interesting because I wonder what the pairings would look like then, right? Right now we have Struble with Hudson. If Engstrom comes in for Struble, who do we have with Hudson? Do we go Hudson-Carrier, or do we do Engstrom-Hudson? I don't know if I love that, because again, Engstrom, like, in the preseason stuff, we saw he was a little sloppy with some of his puck handling, like, still just learning the ropes. Reminded me a little bit of Matheson, just slightly, like a year or two ago. Not quite that offensive upside yet, though I think Engstrom has a nice little bit of potential there. But, like, some of those mistakes on the passes, like, it's going to take him a while to ease in. It's never going to be an easy transition, but he has shown so much professionalism, and like you said, that smooth skating that he has, that is something that absolutely will translate. So you put him with anyone, you put him with like a Carrier, and I think that's just a dynamic, great pairing that can work super well together. And if that's the case, then, I don't know. I still think that's kind of a Xhekaj that comes out, right? You replace Xhekaj with Engstrom. You run Engstrom and Carrier. You keep Struble Hudson. I don't know, Jesse, but the fans seem pretty split too. Either way, I'm excited to see what he can do because I think people maybe sleep, even though he has 14 points in 18 games, like you said, I think people still sleep on that offensive production. He's on pace to outpace any Logan Mailloux season for us in the AHL, which is kind of crazy in its own right.
Yeah, the fact that he's filling in so valiantly in Mailloux's absence here is absolutely incredible. And I think you might be getting on to something like Lane Hudson is the X factor in all of this. 100%. Of course, we need to consider the larger implications, how important Hudson is to this team. And the Hudson-Struble pairing has shown to be pretty good. And again, that might be Struble's saving grace really in all of this. So it might come down to something quite pragmatic as that. So that's an interesting part to bring in all of this. Again, Engstrom with his skating, what we're going to see here, like, we saw a lot of good things from him in the past, and we know his preseason was a little bit rough, but, like, we've always known that there's a really, really good player there. He makes a lot of poise. He doesn't really get too shaken up, for being such a young player under pressure as well here. So what he's doing both offensively, but then we see with a player like Matheson, who you brought up, and how he can effectively, when you got a defenseman who just skates really well, they just have such a way of controlling the game, right? Whether that's through the breakouts, through their coverages, getting back, like getting everybody in sync. So I think he just really fits exactly what we're looking for here. So I'm very excited to see Adam Engstrom make his debut with the Montreal Canadiens very, very soon.
Me too. And to look back at the polls here, 68% of people said Texier will draw into the lineup first. I tend to agree with that. But when it comes to the Engstrom replacement, I mean, look, they're not on board with me. 71% of the people who voted said Struble is going to be the guy coming out for Adam Engstrom. And I think that makes sense play style wise, right? You think of Struble more as an Engstrom type. Xhekaj is kind of his own beast, right? So it's very interesting to kind of look at how fans are seeing this. And I really like that. And I want to take a look into the chat here too, because we got lots of people typing in chat. Again, priority response to our wonderful channel members like Mark or long time member. We got to get a call going very soon here, Jesse. We're in November. I can't wait. We should do a first period watch along with some fans very soon. Maybe not this week because it's an insane week, but maybe next week that could be something. Anyway, we'll think about it. Mark Orr saying, hello all you awesome Habs fans, keep the faith, go Habs go. It's not a stream without Mark Orr sending that message. Mark, shout out to you for coming in at the earlier time. Glad to see you here before the old time starting. Wonderful to see you. Derek saying Texier has experience. That's the difference between him and Wa. And we have Savak saying, j'ai l'impression dans quelques années Engstrom better than, that's not what you say. What am I doing? English and French. Struble and Xhekaj. So he thinks that maybe in a couple of years, Engstrom could be better than Struble and Xhekaj. And maybe just to put a butt on this just for now, because I think we're talking about Engstrom a lot. But what do you think of that take, Jesse? Because honestly, I could absolutely see it.
Higher ceiling.
Yeah.
That's for sure. Now there's a place, that being said, like just the stabilizing effect of like what Xhekaj can do, especially in the playoffs. For me, while that's not like a skill output, like what he's actually doing for your team still is for me just as important as having, you know, a guy in my top four that can get some points as well there. It's not as important as having like a Hudson type of guy, for example, but I would say for a second pairing. It's a really solid point. And again, generally speaking, when you can skate pretty well, you know, obviously Sweden has a history of producing some pretty good defensemen in the past. Yeah. There's a lot of things going in Adam's Engstrom favor to not only say that he's an NHLer, but that he could potentially get into that top four role. And we know like Struble's technically playing in the top four because of Hudson, and that's more kind of the size dynamics, the anomaly that is Hudson, where size kind of takes a precedent, where Carrier should be playing with Hudson, but because it's two smaller guys, that's why they don't have them on a pairing as much this year here. So that being said, I think it's an absolutely valid take. That's why I'm so excited to see him, Josh. Like, I know you've been like basically like singing his praises, like since you saw him live one time, like for you, like you felt like he really jumped out over Mayu. Now we're not trying to just throw shade because Mayu's not part of the family anymore. We love any player who's been part of the Habs organization, right? But no, obviously there is just some real pro qualities to Adam Engstrom's game, which is getting me very, very excited to see him in action.
Yeah, he's just smart. Like when I saw him live against Rochester, that playoff matchup, it was just like he just knew where to be, and the puck was like a magnet to his stick. And similar to what Carrier brings in a lot of ways, Carrier just plays the game smart, right? He lets the puck come to him, and he kind of makes everyone else kind of back into his will. And it's a little interesting. Engstrom did some of the same stuff, but like not as much of a controlled game as a flashy game, but there were some of those elements of like he knew where to be and how to get there at the right time. So wonderful chat on Adam Engstrom. I see a lot of chat about Guhle as well, saying, look, if we had Guhle, then this is a whole different story. And anyway, we'll get to that when he gets back. But for now, we got to stick with the young guys. But before we get to the young guys, make sure you like this stream. We got over 200 people here. We'd love to hit 100 likes on the stream. You know how much we love to do it. It's one click, just clicking that like button down below. Check if you have, and if you have, unlike and like again. Why not? It helps us out a ton, pushes it out to other Habs fans to come in here and have this wonderful discussion. And speaking of wonderful, we got to do a little prospect check-in because it's been a hot minute, and I know you guys are curious about how our boys are doing, and well, spoiler alert, they're doing great. And this episode doesn't even include Jacob Fowler because we talk about him in videos. That guy's doing some crazy stuff, but we have some other guys, important guys like Michael Hage, now up to 20 points in 16 games. Again, cooled off a bit after that extremely hot start. I think it was against Mercyhurst where he had like 7 points in 2 games. Again, that wasn't a great school, but still 9 goals, Jesse, in 16 games. He has not even played half of the amount of games as last year. He's well over half the amount of points, and he is almost at his goal total from last year. You talk about a guy who has taken leaps and bounds from last year to this year on a better team as well. He's still standing out just as much. He put on weight in the weight room, 6'1", 200. A lot of that is muscle, and he's scoring more goals in production. I know we talked before about how it's not nearly as common to see someone like bulk up and take that stride and play at the same time, because usually it's like kind of one or the other. It takes a couple of years. This dude's doing it all. And look, I don't want to get my hopes up, but honestly, like when it comes to forward prospects, I feel like even when you talk about a guy like Sharovsky, I feel like Hage at least has that floor that might even be higher in terms of NHL skill.
You'd have to say that. And again, the shots maybe get a little bit like even heavier right now, because that's the big thing that's sticking out to me when we're watching the highlight reels from him right now. Is again, like, his shot is just absolutely looking lethal. He's beating goalies clean left, right, and center right now. So again, the 20 points in 16 games is really speaking out, but while bringing a little bit more of that physicality, which we know for the Habs in the NHL is just so important. So again, getting these habits ahead of time, so when he's coming here again, he's hitting the ground running. It's just absolutely so huge. And again, like Josh, like what I'm seeing right now too is like, it's a guy that's very, very close to being like NHL ready. Like he's NHL ready right now. It's just a little bit more development he would do even better. But like this guy's got to be ready by the end of the season. Wouldn't you agree that we're going to see Michael Hage, if the Habs are able to make the playoffs, which we believe they will? Michael Hage is going to make his debut this year for the Montreal Canadiens in the playoffs. And I think we don't want to underestimate, we don't want to put too much pressure on him, but this is a dynamic player that could give us a huge addition in terms of scoring punch going into our first round and beyond of the playoffs, which again is maybe some good motivation for the boys and for himself, knowing that this is very well the reality that they're living in.
Yeah, it's a crazy fact that we're saying that, right? Because like this team objectively, when healthy, is extremely deep, right? Again, like we're still without Newhook, we're without Kirby, Dach, we're without Patrick Laine, but even with those three guys in the lineup, you take out what? You take out Veleno, you take out Davidson, you take out Xhekaj, and it's like now this team is like 4 lines deep. Like remember, our fourth line kind of to start the year was what? Evans, Anderson, and Laine. And you wonder like, okay, where does Hage slot in? Well, you don't know if these guys are going to for sure be healthy, and there might even be a chance for him to really make a difference. Like if he continues like this, we saw Caufield and how important he was in that rookie season coming in playing with Montreal. Like, I don't know, especially for a guy that has played a bit of wing but can definitely play center. There's going to be a spot probably ready for him. And look, teams always like to burn that first year of eligibility, right? Like just as a kind of here you go to the player. Montreal has done that with a bunch of different guys. We did it with Caufield, we did it with Hudson, we're going to do it again. We did it with like Jordan Harris, right? We're going to see it with Michael Hage almost certainly. The question is, will he draw in? And I think he could, Jesse. I think you're right. I think he's legit NHL ready. It's maybe kind of crazy to say, but like Mark Orr and Chad saying, I would start Hage out as a third line center just to shelter him a little, or pair him with an experienced second line center to mentor him. And I completely agree. And again, with some inevitable roster moves and changes coming to Montreal before the playoffs, you have to wonder, like, who could that fit with? There's going to be so many opportunities. Like, I think even Hage on a line with the likes of, I mean, I don't know, like, maybe, I think him and Bolduc could be really nice. Him and Demidov could be good, but they'd almost need a veteran with them. Like, I think the benefit of having the depth that we do on this team, there's a lot of guys we could play with him, and I think that'll play also to maybe the other young guy we'll talk about here in a moment.
And it's just such a great situation for the Habs because, you have a player coming in with the skill, but then we know the whole backstory of growing up a Habs fan and just, again, the whole history with Michael Hage and his family, where, again, he's just so endeared by the Montreal Canadiens and vice versa. Again, so it's just such a great combination when it's a player with the skill, but you have to feel like he's coming in with the willingness. Like, it means something for him to play here specifically. Like, if he had his choice of anywhere in the NHL, there's a very good chance this is exactly where he wants to be. So obviously, when you get that type of player, and then obviously putting the team first, like we're already seeing that type of mentality, it just seems like a perfect fit for, even though we're like coming out of our rebuild, to still be getting these level of quality players, which have like these certain X factors along to come with it. I don't think we want to underestimate how important that will be in truly completing this rebuild.
Oh, it's so fun. I actually see a few people in chat saying, hey, Jan Bolduc. Well, Owen is saying it at least, and you're so right. Like, the guys that really want to be here want to do everything they can to be Habs and to make an impact. And again, we're seeing it with like the Xhekaj bros. Those guys, it's incredible. And like Hage, he's born to be a Hab. And we also got another guy in Alexandre Texier who has constantly sung the praises of Montreal. Like his buddy Ivan Demidov plays here, and I wanted to shout him out too because look, he's still barely 18 years old. He only turns 19 in February, and yeah, he went through a little spill there where he was kind of 0 points in 4 or so games because he was point per game for a while, like 16 points in 16 games, I think. But he scored a goal in his last game, a really nice snipe. And Jesse, like, as much as it's nice to say point per game in the KHL, yeah, okay, he's not there anymore. He still leads his team in points. He leads a legit KHL team that is doing decent in points as an 18-year-old. Like, you know, I just gotta say how insane that is. Ivan Demidov, yes, he did it, but there were guys like really close to him. Swarovski's played fewer games than a lot of the guys on this team. 17 points in 21 games, showing off that incredible goal scoring ability, on pace for a 20-goal season roughly in the KHL, because they play 60-something games. Look, as much as it would be nice to say, oh my gosh, look, he's still outpacing Ivan Demidov, which I don't think he is anymore, the fact he's still leading his team in scoring is incredible. And I feel like, you know, it's so easy to just kind of maybe miss when he does something crazy, but we still got to bring this guy up every now and then to reinvigorate the hype that we have in so many of our Russian prospects.
And it's just so funny because what we're seeing from Michael Hage and Alex Swarovski right now are mirroring each other in so many ways. In fact, it's been going on all season. And in fact, goals that they just scored recently, they look like carbon copies of each other, Josh, where it's like Swarovski or Hage, they get the puck at the point on the left-hand side. They then take in the slot and just letting it rip. Again, just beating goalies just by the pure velocity of the shots that they're ripping right now. It's just absolutely incredible to see. And again, with Swarovski, I'm glad to see him just scoring as well and sniping it a lot, because we can see a lot of time where he's the playmaker and he's just making it so easy on his teammates often and going hard to the net and just making stuff happen. But again, just seeing that kind of that game-breaking ability just every once in a while, just really being able to let it rip, pick your spot, you know, and pop the bottle from there is just absolutely phenomenal. And just the fact that we keep seeing it with Swarovski, because just the fact he wasn't the first round pick, like you almost keep like, okay, are the wheels going to fall off at a certain point where like his production just tanks? And it's like, no, he just continues. He keeps playing tremendously well right now, which has got us this every reason to feel just very, very excited.
Yeah, once he bulks up a little bit more, which he has a little bit, but like once he gets that NHL size, like he still has time, right? He can't come over until after next season. So there's still a lot to be unpacked here. A guy that is still not really at that pro level, you know, physique is still leading his team, right? And that's the crazy thing, right? Even Demidov was a little stronger. Like, he's a little bulkier than I think people give him credit for. Like, Alexander Swarovski, I have big things. I think big things are in store for him. It's been incredible to watch him this season. But one other guy. Now, this is a guy. Here's a guy that we haven't mentioned a whole lot as of late. He's a guy we kept track of a couple of years ago. He came to our prospect camp and training camp and then got injured. But now he's playing in the NCAA, and he has been off. Josh banged his head again. Did I bang? Oh, that? Oh, no, I didn't. Sorry, that's a pimple. That's different. That's because I'm sweaty. No, so this is a guy that we haven't talked about in a while, and for those of you that I was living in Quebec when he was playing for the Reinbacher, and oh my goodness, Quentin Miller. Like, let me just show it the full stats here, Jesse. With the University of Denver, which is consistently one of the best collegiate hockey programs in the country, in the U.S., he's played 12 games, 12 of their 14 games, a 1.64 goals against average with a .941 save percentage. Quentin Miller is a guy that went from, he's quiet, like above 900 save percentage in the Q is pretty good because it's a goal scorer's league, right? There's a lot of scoring, not a lot of defense. That's some good signs, right? We got him in the 4th round, looked pretty good, 6'3", from Montreal. And then say, okay, then he got hurt, the shoulder injury, went to the BCHL. He had a great playoff run with Chilliwack, like 20 games. And then he goes to the University of Denver, like, let's see, and now he's just blowing our socks off. These are numbers similar to Dobeš and Fowler, even better than both of them. Again, a smaller sample, Jesse, but I just feel like we have to highlight this because it's a guy that's very easy to overlook, but straight up, like, insane numbers. And so, again, I don't know if it's sustainable. Denver is a very good team, so that definitely helps inflate the numbers slightly, but regardless, this is just another example of a dude that has put up numbers relative to his league. He's put up numbers that are surprisingly good, and I just haven't seen it stop yet. Kind of similar to Jacob Fowler.
And when you get into the NCAA, that's when these numbers really start mattering a whole lot. You start seeing, okay, it's the real deal, and it's, you know, it's not, you know, a for sure thing either. But again, as you mentioned, this is what solid, like, goalies that pan out in the NHL, this is what they do. And that's obviously the tough nature of being a prospect. So obviously, some players, you know, can put up similar above 900 and not pan out in the NHL. But at the same time, like, this is what you have to do. It's not taking yourself out of the race. Quentin Miller is just continuing it right now at the time when it matters most. Good-natured Quentin Miller. Again, just look at that smile. How can you not love the guy? Again, one of the stats standing out the most right now is that 0.941 save percentage. Just absolutely unreal, his level of efficiency right now. Again, we know he's playing with a good team. However, I don't think that we should let that take away from his good play. Again, that 8-3-1 record that he's had, really coming into his own when it mattered the most. And again, this was very strategic from the Habs. This is before Fowler, where we picked Miller here. And we went for a couple goalies all at once. But I definitely, coming out of that draft, Volokin and Quentin Miller were two of those standouts. And we know Volokin's still working on those things. And you have to feel with Volokin, there's like a really high ceiling with him. Now, what we're starting to see with Miller is there's a high ceiling, but that floor is starting to raise up and up. And this is looking like a guy like, okay, you start playing like that, yeah, you're going to get a contract in the AHL. He's going to be playing with the Laval Rocket before we know it. And again, as guys like Jacob Fowler look to graduate, etc., we want to make sure that we're continuing that pipeline of that solid goaltending development that we deserve here in Montreal. It's all about goaltending. It's all about in between the pipes here. So nice to see Quentin Miller again coming out of the woodwork and obviously playing some great hockey. You know, you can count on us on Habs Digest for keeping up to date where he's at as the season continues.
Absolutely. Like I when Fowler's second, like even his first and second year in college, when they started, I was like, let's see if this is sustainable. It was sustainable. But like, I feel like it's so easy for me to overlook that this is the University of Denver. Like, this is a great program, right? This is where Z Boyum just came out of. This is a team that has won so many national championships, and he is their guy, and he is doing incredible stuff. Like, if he were to get drafted, again, he's older now, but if he were to get drafted, like, recently, I think you'd see him go way higher, right? And so, like, just based off these numbers now, I think he'd go a lot higher in a redraft. First-round pick, maybe, I don't know, but we'd have to see. Yeah? But there's still a lot of season left to be played for Quentin Miller, but to stick with the young guys, one of the big things, the big thing that I think is the frame of today, Jesse, look, we talked about Joshua Watt earlier, and I want to just circle back to, first of all, how Montreal is reportedly manning the phones constantly. Look, I know the Blues were at one of our games scouting. We can see this Stu Cowan tweet. There were lots of scouts. Anaheim, Buffalo, Chicago, Colorado, Nashville at back-to-back Habs games last week. We had Vegas. We had Bill Guerin from Team USA. Teams are scouting Montreal. We know Nashville. Barry Trotz came out and spoke today, said they need a lot more from their guys. So when you're looking at Montreal now, Darren Dreger a couple days ago saying, look, Montreal has the ammo, they have the assets, and they're willing to pay. Kent Hughes has said that himself. So right now, we're setting up for something big. But in the short term, too, this move from Joshua Waugh, moving on from him, my point, I'm going to come around to my point, not just rambling on a bunch of things. To me, Jesse, and I said this before, and I think I want to see what the fans think. I think Joshua Waugh has played his last game in a Habs jersey. I think he will stay in Laval until he is traded. And I think a trade is going to come within the next month or two. Like pretty soon here. Like, I don't think we're going to push too close to that Olympic window. I think Kent Hughes is already looking at the phones. It wouldn't shock me to see Joshua Waugh moved in a trade, whether it's with one of these teams or not, at some point soon, because you can see the potential in Waugh. I know me and you, Jesse, we still both believe that he can have an NHL level career. I still think it's possible, but not with Montreal right now. He does not fit the way that we're building this organization. And I think it sends a very clear message for the future, what kind of players we need on this roster, by keeping Davidson and Xhekaj, two more physical guys, even if they have less high-end skill than Waugh. Plus all these trade rumors, I don't know, Jesse, I just feel like I'm putting all the ingredients together and I'm seeing the recipe come together in front of my eyes. And unfortunately, it seems to spell the end in my mind for Joshua Waugh, but I'd love to hear what you and the fans have to say about that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Florian Xhekaj is going to stay up. And then we're going to make another addition into the forward group. And that's going to pretty much block out any other spots that he may have. Again, we don't want to rule out something later on the season with injuries. Our guys are going to get back healthy. You just have to feel, again, with those additions of Texier, that's where that factors in. And Joshua Waugh had his opportunity where if he's playing better, they're not making this addition here. And it hurts me here because I've been saying it for years. Like, I like Joshua Waugh. I believed in this player. But again, it sometimes comes down to those little plays and how much you really want it at the end of the day. Let that be a lesson for all of us, really. But, I think it's just so interesting because, again, Josh, the reason why I believe this is that you have to feel like a trade is coming soon because there's going to be that roster freeze before the Christmas break. And then we have the Olympics shortly thereafter. So you have to feel, again, the playoffs starting shortly after that. So it does kind of move up your timeline for making some trades. I think in December would shape up nicely given what's going on right now. And again, that's coming very, very soon. So that's taking away some huge opportunities for Joshua Waugh. I feel like we need a little bit of depth with Florian Xhekaj providing. Now we just need that point getter within our top six. Yeah, I'd probably fancy a center there. But again, I think that's what that team needs. Like, we're not so far away. It's hard to like kind of like highlight enough, like getting a veteran that could also produce what that could really do for a team that is already so close, how that could really check some boxes, I think, in more ways than one.
Yeah, it's such a tough situation, and like again, make sure you get your votes in on that because I really want to see what the fans have to say. But like, I agree. I want the scoring punch, right? And the problem is like, it feels like Joshua Waugh was kind of supposed to be that guy that could slot into that middle six and be that scoring punch. We saw him play so well at like the World Juniors and with some good teammates. He was a 50-goal scorer in the queue. But when it came to the NHL, like, he wasn't really, occasionally he could get into those dirty areas. You saw those flashes of drive from him. And like, I have nothing but respect for Joshua Waugh, and I'd love to see him succeed. But look, if it has to be another Logan Mailloux situation, which it might not be, but it might be, I'd be okay with it, right? And we saw what we got from Mailloux, and I'm sure there's some team that's looking at Waugh and saying, this guy could fit on an NHL roster somewhere. Some team that almost has a lot of physicality already in that bottom six, maybe defensive talent that wants a bit of a scoring punch. You could kind of do a little prospect flip or use him as some sweetener. So to take a look at this poll and to end this thing off, like it's an unfortunate situation for him, but the fans have spoken, and 48 votes, 77% of people, Jesse, think Joshua Waugh has played his last game for Montreal. And so that's maybe more overwhelming than I thought, but right now, I think regardless, I'm anticipating something big. Again, we talked about the Carrier trade being around this time last year. There's so much smoke going around so many different teams. Nashville here. Calgary is always up and down with these Kadri rumors. And, St. Louis, apparently, Jordan Kyrou may be willing to listen on trade offers, which is a bit of a newer update, not just specifically to Montreal, but they've heard he might waive his no movement clause. And while Robert Thomas and Parayko are interesting names, they're probably not available. I don't know, Jesse. Again, like I said, it's one of these times where I feel like I'm just getting teased. Like, I want something big to happen. We still get Carrier. We make a crazy call up. We send down Joshua Waugh. This stuff matters, but like, I know Kent's cooking something, and I think we're going to see it come to fruition very soon here.
And for the right cost, you have to feel like the timing is right there. A lot of parity, young team. It seems fairly clear of what we need. I've been kind of advocating for that vet for quite a while, of that veteran that can still get us that point. With this young team right now, I think it's showing very clearly that this is what we need. For sure, it's nice getting those young guys you can grow with. I think we've developed enough of those in-house. Now, definitely somebody like Ryan O'Reilly would definitely fit that bill. It doesn't even need to be like a point getter extraordinaire. It just needs to be somebody get the points at the right time for this team, have that stabilizing effect throughout the lineup here. It's strange, like, how adding just a player like this, how it could really benefit, I think, this team, again, that is so young, is motivation for Kent Hughes to really get it right. And while there are usual suspects where Ryan O'Reilly makes a lot of sense, Josh, I find myself thinking a little bit outside of the box, because we know Kent Hughes likes to surprise us sometimes. And maybe looking at some rosters from other teams and who makes sense in terms of what we need here, because you know that Kent Hughes, he's never really resting on his laurels or to convention to really improve the Montreal Canadiens.
I think he's willing to go outside the box, and we saw that, like, his first like big move, the Line A thing, is like, whoa, like, when the rumors started swirling, it's like, well, what's going to happen? That's like one of those moves that, like, that doesn't feel like a Habs move. Like, that's so crazy, right? And I think it's, again, he's not afraid to make these bold choices. Like, let's be honest, calling up Fleury and Xhekaj and playing him in that game, that's a bold decision.
Love that.
Right? And I love it. And guess what? It paid dividends right away. And I'm sure we have internal analytics and stuff like that's saying, oh, this is going to work, this is not. Even, like, going back to last year, calling up Dobeš in favor of Kaiden Primo, like, maybe seemed like the obvious choice in the moment, but, like, was it? We had Connor Hughes, who was a more experienced goalie down there, but we chose the young guy in Dobeš. There was something we saw in him. Guess what? It paid off huge. Like, there's these bold moves that I think can really work out for Montreal. I'm excited to see where it goes from here, but listen, that's going to do it, guys. We're 16 likes away from 100 likes on this stream. Thank you so much for tuning in. Jesse, any final thoughts? Big week coming up for Montreal. Wacky week with American Thanksgiving. There's Black Friday stuff. There's Black Friday sales for Tricolor. If you guys want to get some Habs gear, we're not sponsored. We'd love to be by them. But, like, so much good stuff coming right now from Montreal. All I'm going to say is keep the eyes open, because I think this little set of moves here is, again, just a little appetizer for something big coming in the next month or so.
Lots to be excited about. We know in a season there's going to be peaks, there's going to be valleys. And that's why we really appreciate our fans here at Habs Digest that are in there throughout it all. We really know that this Habs team has such a bright future ahead of itself. But we really just thank you guys for being there every step of the way, your support, your kind words. It really means the world to us. We truly appreciate your support.
We absolutely do. Ray saying, good shit, boys. Hey, book a trip Black Friday, Dominican Republic. No, if we do that, we're not going to be hearing the latest news. We got a game Friday versus Vegas, baby. Could go to Vegas now, not doing that. Listen, if you guys enjoyed, thank you for helping us hit 100 likes on this. Hey, subscribe while you're at it. Just double check if you are, because over half of you aren't. And we got live streams every week. We're here every single day with videos. So if you want your home for all the latest news, this is the spot to be. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you all in the next one.
As well.